Hanse, I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Alberta RCMP have laid more charges against people in northern Alberta who set off fireworks during an ongoing fire ban. On June 1st, RCMP received multiple reports that fireworks were being set off in a wooded area in Fort Chipewyan. During their investigation, the Mounties identified 3 individuals who were responsible for lighting fireworks. All 3 are from Fort Chipewyan and were given provincial violation notices for igniting the fireworks in a forest protection area without permission of a forest officer. The 3 now face a fine payment of $600 each. RCMP are reminding all residents to adhere to the fire ban that remains in place this week. The Manitoba government is encouraging Manitobans and Canadians to reconsider non-essential hotel plans in the province to make space for wildfire evacuees. At a Monday afternoon press conference, Transport and Infrastructure Minister Lisa Naylor said pausing local hotel bookings is one of several ways Manitobans can help wildfire evacuees. Kristen Hayward, the Assistant Deputy Minister for the Manitoba Wildfire Service, said 28 fires are burning in Manitoba and 10 are out of control. There are approximately 21,000 registered wildfire evacuees in Manitoba, with 27 communities under evacuation orders. Last week, leaders from Northern Manitoba First Nations called on the province and feds to send more firefighting equipment to their communities. When asked if the province plans to do so, Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures Minister Ian Bushey had this to say.
We have a number of resources that are out in the communities and supporting not only First Nation communities but the municipalities as well too. But as we go forward and learning from the things that we go through today, I think as a go forward approach, we're absolutely engaging in the First Nation communities as to how we can stand up further infrastructure in those communities so that when we do have situations such as this, we're all more prepared.
The family of a 42-year-old man that was killed in 2023 are upset after the lone person charged and tried in his death was acquitted in May. Now they are taking to the streets demanding justice. With more, here's APTN's Tiara Wheatley.
This rally is for my brother Brendan Hall.
Florence Corshane took to the streets recently in search of justice for her 42-year-old brother Brendan Hall, who was killed after being stabbed multiple times in March 2023.
My brother would never go anywhere if he wasn't invited.
Hall was killed in Saging First Nation. Not long after his death, Matthew Schacht was charged with second-degree murder. Last month in May, Schacht was acquitted of the charge and a lesser charge of manslaughter after a 5-week trial. He had claimed self-defense. The family wonders why, despite having a witness testify Schacht was the aggressor, the jury sided with his story.
From the accused, my brother kicked the door in, but when you looked at the door jamb, there was no forced entry. Nothing. There wasn't even footprints on the door.
The family believes race played a factor. They say there needs to be a better process for jury selection.
The jury was one race. It was all Caucasian. I know we come from a multicultural society, and I think that would have been a real huge benefit if it was multicultural.
Hall's sister also believes the RCMP did not do a proper investigation into the circumstances leading up to how Hall ended up at the accused's place. RCMP D Division responded in an email statement to APTN News saying, Manitoba RCMP Major Crime Services conducted a thorough investigation and gathered all available evidence that resulted in a charge of second-degree murder. The accused was tried by a jury of his peers. We have to respect the judicial process, and our condolences remain with the family. Brendan Hall was raised heavily in Ojibwe culture and teachings, according to his family.
He was a sun dancer, a very well-known powwow singer. He sang for Red Wing and High Noon.
The family says none of this was brought up at trial, something they feel could have had an impact on how her brother was portrayed. It's stories like this why the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Unit was created within the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. Melissa Robinson, cousin of Morgan Harris, one of 4 First Nations women killed by a serial killer in 2022, works with families seeking justice.
You know, because I look back at our story, right? And I think back to when we were told no, you know, asking for answers. And it was no from everyone. and the door kept being shut. And I feel like at that time, they probably thought we were the kind of family to maybe say okay and just walk away. But no, if anything, that just made us stronger, pushed harder, got louder, and so that's what I'm using my voice for now, is to help other families ensure that they get that justice.
Justice that Brendan Hall's family will continue to search for as they look toward places such as Manitoba's Law Society and the Independent Investigations Unit for help as they seek an appeal. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
According to a new report by Canada's Auditor General Karen Hogan, Indigenous Services Canada has not been processing applications for registration under the Indian Act within the required 6-month timeline, leaving up to 12,000 people unable to access health benefits under treaty, on-reserve housing, and financial aid for post-secondary education. The report found that 8 out of 10 applications processed by ISC between 2019 and 2024 exceeded the 6-month deadline. Some of the priority applications were also for older people who have health issues and are depending on receiving registration for a better quality of life. Hogan says there is a current backlog of about 12,000 applications, including nearly 1,500 applications that went unprocessed for more than 2 years. Hogan also notes that ISC was unable to show that most ISC staff who made final decisions on status applications had the proper training and certifications. In a statement, Indigenous Services Minister Manitoba Masti said, "While the audit highlights areas for improvement, I want to emphasize that important work is already underway in many of the identified areas. Most notably, the department is transitioning from a paper-based application system to a more modern digital format, an initiative that will reduce processing times, minimize errors, and improve client service for the issuance of the secure status card." Prime Minister Mark Carney pledged to meet Canada's NATO commitments on defense spending earlier this week. As part of being a NATO member country, Canada is supposed to spend 2% of its GDP per year on defense. However, it's a target the country has failed to meet in recent years. Speaking at a armory in Toronto on Monday afternoon, while flanked by Minister of Defense David McGuinty and Chief of Defense Staff Lieutenant General Jenny Carignan, Carney said the government will meet the 2% threshold this fiscal year, increase salaries of military staff, and enhance Arctic over-the-horizon radar. The cost to meet Canada's NATO commitments will be about $9 billion.
As the world grows more dangerous, we will secure Canada. And through these efforts, we will also create tens of thousands of high-paying jobs right here at home. Canada will lead, with the strongest economy in the G7 and a strong, secure and sovereign future for all Canadians and for all time.
Election day is fast approaching for the Crees of EU-ISG in Quebec. The official candidates list has been announced, with candidates John Kitchen, Paul John Murdoch, and Norman A. Wabachi running for Grand Chief and Chairperson. Candidates Robin Gull Saganash, Sammy Salt Blacksmith, Lyndon Spencer, and John Henry Wabachi are running for Deputy Grand Chief and Vice Chairperson. Elections will be held on Thursday, July 17th from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., with advance polls open on July 13th and online voting available July 14th and July 15th. The person elected Grand Chief will replace former Grand Chief Mandy Masti. Masti was elected in 2021 and was the first woman Grand Chief of EU-ISG. She resigned in March of this year to pursue federal politics and is now the first Indigenous Minister of Indigenous Services Canada. She was welcomed into Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet just a few weeks after she won the riding of Abitibi James Bay Nunavik, EU. Two sacred ribstones, hundreds of years old, were recently returned to the Siksika Nation in Treaty 7 on Friday in Alberta. APTN's Chris Stewart was there and has more on the significance of the return of these sacred stones.
Here, thank you.
A full house was on hand at the Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park to witness the return of cherished rocks called ribstones to the Blackfoot Siksika Nation. These ribstones are hundreds, if not 1,000 years old. They were used for meditation and prayers, and to bring prosperity to the hunt. For over 100 years, these ribstones have been kept at the Canadian Museum of History in Quebec, and now they are officially home.
As we celebrate the return of these sacred stones, I'd like to take the opportunity to encourage Canadian and international institutions to please proactively work with Indigenous communities to restore their access to these very important pieces of their culture. Today,
a group of Blackfoot peoples traveled to Ottawa to determine what nation the stones came from.
It was identifying who the rocks belonged to. So the elders from Piikani, from Kainai, they were able to identify that the ribstones belonged to Siksika people. So once they identified that, we began the repatriation process.
And so having these rocks back home so we can tell our future generations of what they were used for and how they were helpful in us maintain our life and exist on the prairies by being able to hunt the buffalo and live off the buffalo and live off the land.
It's not the first artifact to be returned. A year ago, a sacred headdress was returned by a museum in England. And in 2022, a buckskin shirt, leggings, a bow and quiver belonging to Chief Crowfoot, who signed Treaty 7, were returned from another museum in England. And the Siksika people are not stopping there.
And we are looking at bringing more things home each year. We're looking at going to New Mexico, where there's a Mutukuk headdress down there. In Colorado, museum there. And of course, Washington, D.C., there's things there that belong to us. And we are looking at reaching out and gaining more, bringing more items home.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park, Alberta.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. And to read and watch our stories, you can go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. A Cree teacher from the Thunderchild First Nation is in Saskatchewan was recently recognized with the province's highest honor. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. A leader in Cree language revitalization is one of 8 people who was recently awarded the Saskatchewan Order of Merit, the highest honor a citizen can receive in the province.
Whose extraordinary efforts to preserve her language will echo through the generations. Senapan Thunder.
Senapan Thunder from the Thunderchild Cree Nation was recognized for her dedication to teaching the Cree language Nehiowewin. Thunder grew up with Cree as her first language. She taught Plains and Woodland Cree in the classroom for decades. Later on, she went virtual with Zoom, her own YouTube channel, a language app, and on her website. She says her passion for the language was inspired by her mother working through university in the 1970s, graduating and being one of the first people to come home and teach Cree. Thunder is now working on producing audiobooks in Cree, among many other projects. Here's what Senapan Thunder had to say when asked why she teaches the language.
I grew up in a language where Nehiowewin was spoken in my home. My grandparents spoke it all the time. My parents spoke it all the time. We had to speak it in the home. And today, seeing this gap between my generation and my children's generation, I feel I haven't done enough for my part, because my children's generation aren't speaking the language. So until they're ready to speak the language, I'm going to have it ready, sitting there.
And a special thanks to the exclusive broadcaster Access Now TV in Saskatchewan for providing the video of Thunder accepting the award. Deanna Garand never imagined she would one day go to university, but thanks to the University of Manitoba's Pathway to Indigenous Nursing Education program, the Red River Métis student recently graduated with her Bachelor of Nursing. Garand recently sat down with APTN Sierra Bettens to talk about how the program helped her grow in her studies and learn more about her culture.
In nursing school, Deanna Garand learned how to monitor vital signs and provide compassionate care. But she also learned how to sew a ribbon skirt and reconnect with her roots. After years of hard work, Garand received her Bachelor of Nursing diploma, wearing her skirt, sash, and Red River Métis pride. But going to university wasn't always the plan. For 15 years, Garand worked as a makeup artist and manager. Then the pandemic happened.
I lost my job. I didn't think that it was going to be something I could do anymore, doing makeup and working where I was working. So I thought, well, if ever I was going to go to school, this would be the time.
Garand took a leap of faith and submitted her application on the registration deadline. She was then connected to the university's Makwa Omushki Kim Pathway to Indigenous Nursing Education, or PINE unit. Director Rhonda Campbell says PINE supports hundreds of Indigenous students on their journey from pre-nursing to graduation.
Smaller classroom sizes for some of the courses, and a lot of tutoring support as well is offered. PINE also helps with personal supports, connecting students to other resources at the university, and also cultural supports is a big area. We have our own knowledge keeper at the College of Nursing, and so students are able to access our knowledge keeper for connecting with ceremonies, if they want any teachings.
Garand credits PINE with helping her grow academically and culturally.
It was just great to have all-around support and have access to elders. They really helped me reconnect, because that was something that was important to me when I started my university journey, because I didn't really grow up with much culture. So it was really, really helpful and gave me a place to feel like I belonged here.
Through PINE, she met Olivia Molyneux, who is Anishinaabe from Henvey Inlet First Nation in Ontario. A mother of two, Molyneux also entered the program as a mature student.
From the second we met, we just have not stopped hanging out since. We kind of got each other through the program. We were with each other all the way through PINE.
She waited with me for a veggie burger on our day one lunch because they didn't have enough cooked. And from that point forward, she's just really helped support me through.
From the cafeteria line to the grad gown queue, the duo has stuck together from day one. Soon, they'll kickstart their nursing careers together at an Indigenous-led community health center.
We need more Indigenous people in those places that are making decisions, and more Indigenous people in those places that are working directly frontline. There is a community of Indigenous people here at the university that are so unbelievably supportive, and they really want to see that you make it through to the end.
Campbell says those interested in PINE can learn more by visiting the University of Manitoba's website or by emailing pine@umanitoba.ca. Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
We now want to tell you about this week's new web poll question. Over at aptnnews.ca, we ask, have you ever felt judged because of a visible tattoo? Your answers are often, sometimes, never, and I don't have any visible tattoos. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/polls to cast your ballot, and stay tuned for the next web poll question later this week. A Mohawk boxer in Ontario recently finished high school and is now setting his sights on one-day fighting in the UFC. That story when we come back. Stay with us. On the east, St. John's 20 in Sun, Charlottetown 14. 15 in Cartwright, La Grande River 17. 17 in Saguenay, Quebec City, rain and 14. Ottawa 21 and sunny there, Peterborough 20. Sioux Lookout 11, Thunder Bay 16. 7 in God's Lake, Thompson, rain and 4. 16 in Winnipeg and Sun, Gimli 13. 18 in Estevan, Swift Current 17. 11 in Buffalo Narrows, Meadow Lake, Smoky there in 11. Showers in Peace River at 22, high level 21 in rain. 24 in Calgary in rain, sunny in Red Deer at 25. 32 in Penticton, Vancouver 21. 15 in Sandspit, Prince Rupert 15 in sun. Showers in Beaver Creek at 12. Whitehorse 17 and partly cloudy. Wrigley 15 in rain, Watee 14. 9 in Pawatuck, Colville Lake 12. 8 in Chesterfield, Baker Lake sunny there and 13. And Arctic Bay 1, Aglulik +3. A 20-year-old Mohawk man from Tyendinaga First Nation in Ontario is prepping for another fight, this time on his home turf. Wasnode Smoke Lafort has big goals to fight in the UFC, but for now he's building muscle, skills, and confidence one day at a time. Here's APTN's Annette Francis with that story.
Wasnode Smoke Lafort and his buddies prepare for another training session. Fighting has been a dream since he was 16. Since that time, 2 years ago, he's been training hard.
I turned 18, I graduated high school, and I decided that I wanted to train and pursue fighting instead of like going to college or university. So talked to my family, everyone was like, okay.
Since that time, 2 years ago, he's been training hard.
Yeah, I was working and training basically every day. I did some like smoker fights or like a demo fight, which is like it's like a fight, but it's not like to a finish. Like no one's getting knocked out. It's kind of controlled.
Then last year, Lafort made the trip to a country that's well known for its martial arts, or Muay Thai. He spent a month in Thailand in rigorous training. By the end, he jumped in the ring and won.
Preparing for the worst. I was preparing to die. And then, yeah, we like burned some tobacco and we talked about everything that we were thankful for and like grateful for. We had been dedicated for a month. Everyone's supporting us. Yeah, so when I got in there, I was already okay with any of the outcomes.
From there, he's competed in local and provincial competitions, not always winning, but gaining confidence along the way. 16-year-old Kelly Trudeau is also hooked on the thrill of the ring. He comes to train with Smoke Lafort 4 days a week.
I like the feeling of getting in there. It's hard to explain, but it feels kind of like life or death. It's like, it's pretty intense, but you know, it gives you like an adrenaline rush.
Smoke Lafort's next fight will be right here in Tyendinaga on June 21st, National Indigenous Peoples Day.
And I'm really excited to get this one in. It'll be my MMA debut. I've been training hard, like I'm ready for it.
Annette Francis, APTN National News.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Tuesday. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast, including reaction from the Saskatchewan Ombudsman, who says the government of Saskatchewan is lacking in its response to help northern Saskatchewan residents impacted by the wildfires there. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.